Hi, my name is Cheri. Welcome to my stamp studio. I'm going to show you a card today that's going to feature a upcoming little bundle. It's super cute, super fun. I've made one video with it so far. So what it is, it's a bundle that are stamps and dies, and I'm going to do several of the dies today. I'm going to try to do 3, maybe 4 cards to kind of show you as many pieces as I can cram on a few of them. Just to kind of show you all of them. And then I'm going to go back to some of my Christmas things because I have a couple of classes coming up and I want to remind you about how fabulous those stamps are that are currently available. But this is also a class that I have coming up. So this class is going to have a super quick turnaround because it is a pre-order for, or like a sneak peek for the January mini catalog. But this piece here will only be available in November. So the stamps and the dies that are called the Curvy celebrations, which is what I'm using in this card, will be in the January to June mini catalog from Stampin' Up. And then this piece here, along with the paper that I'm using today, I'm not using the stamp set, the Curvy Christmas, will only ever be available in November. If you're a demonstrator, you can get it now. But for customers, November of this year, and it goes with the dies. So if you're gonna get this later on, you might as well get it now because then you can get this to go with it, and it's an adorable little set. So I've used the trees. I'm going to try to use a couple of other things with it so you'll know the potential that it has, because then it'll be gone, and I don't want it to be February of next year and you buy this and say, I wanted those little trees that go with it, and then find out and be disappointed that you can't get it. So I will have a class. That's why it's going to be a super quick turnaround, because I want you to be able to buy it. You can register for the class in October, and I will have it all ready. So when you are able to get your things and I can order them for you, that first week in November, I can get it sent right back out to you. So you can get a few Christmas things made with it if you want to. So the class will probably have one Christmas thing, and then the rest will be more generic. But it's so super adorable. And the dies are really different. There is a little bit of a learning curve, so it is one of those ones that you might want to take a class. In fact, the card that we're going to make now, I just sent some mistakes to my girlfriends, and I'm like, all of the little beautiful pieces of shimmer white cardstock that I messed up on, and I'm like, learning curve, because they're just different. They're different kind of dies. So this is there's a tutorial up for this, so you can see that. Then there is on my Facebook page, my girlfriend made this one. So there is a tutorial on our Facebook Live. She did this one on my Facebook Live. So you can see that one if you want to. It's super cute how she did the tree down the side. And that one uses the Christmas one. And then this one uses the Christmas one. I don't know if I'll get around to a tutorial for that. This was a learning curve. And let me just show you. Don't start with brushed shimmer cardstock on a die that's, you know, you've done this for a long time and you're like, I can do this. I don't even know where all the pieces are. I just hacked up a lot of brushed cardstock. I will use it and I'll figure out a way, but it wasn't in my head. The dies didn't do what I thought they were going to do. So it will be a good one to take a class. And then also as part of the Christmas thing, there's some paper, and it will also only be available while supplies last or in November. And I'm going to use that on this card, even though I'm not making a Christmas card, because a lot of it doesn't have to be the season that you know, we're creative. We can use things the other way. So I'm going to do this one. Then I'm going to do at least one more, maybe 2. And then I'm going to move on to some regular stuff. I do want to let those of you know who place orders with me, especially if you're ordering this weekend, because I'm doing some free giveaways. But we are going to be out of town. We're taking vacation and we won't have phone service. So if you need to place an order and you want it to phone it into me, you need to do that before Thursday of this coming week. So let's get going on the card. So I have shimmer white that I've messed up some pieces of. So I'm going to fold this in half because I want we're going to cut this. We need to cut it first because it's going to have an off cut, and then that's what I'm going to use for the stamping. So we'll pull our cut and emboss machine over a couple of times. I am going to use a couple of my cardinal rules we're going to break. I'm going to use the magnetic platform, even though there's not anything on this one that needs lining up, but on the next one there are. Plus I just think it cuts a little better. So I'm going to use this little lace one. So when you use these dies, this is where the learning curve is. You can see this is the cutting edge. So if you do it the wrong way, the way I did it first time, it just cut a pretty swirl. There was no lace, and I wanted lace on my card. So I've cut this and folded it in half. You want to make sure the lace, see if I do it this direction, the lace is all going to be on the part of my card that falls off, otherwise known as my scrap paper. And I don't want the pretty lace on my scrap paper. I want it on the flap of my card. So you need to make sure that the cutting edge is on the side that you want it to be. Then we're also going to go from edge to edge, and it's definitely going to be speed bump because that's the only way this fits. But because we want this flap on this card and that's the way it has to be, that's the way it's going to have to be. So when you do it, just be super careful. Just make sure that when you line it up, that it's on your plate. That's why I'm using the magnetic platform, because it's not going to move. Because if it moves at all, although this machine is bigger, let me turn it a little bit. See, there's clearance on both sides. If you're using the Big Shot, there's no clearance. And so if it goes off at all, it cuts your dies. And I know people have had that happen. This one does give you a little bit of clearance, but it's going to make the speed bump noise right here. No, it didn't. Oh, and it's because I switched to the magnetic platform. So here, I want to show you. This is what I mean. See, here's cut. And the first time I did it, I didn't think about it because learning curve, you got to take a second to get used to these. So here's the cut. The first time I did it, my cutting side was flipped. So all of my pretty lace was on my scrap piece of paper. So then I just had to get another piece and do it. So here, you know, it has this pretty lace. I'm not going to do it because it's going to fall out right there. But we do need that other piece down here, and that's going to be where we stamp. Now, if you have the magnetic platform, to keep it from bowing, what you want to do is now make sure you send it back through the other direction. Because if you keep going the same way, then it's going to bow. So every time, go in one side and then back the other. So now we're going to take this piece right here, and this is going to be our stamping. We may need a little bit more, so I've got some extra over here, but you don't want to waste this. So here's the big Ivy. Just going to use Memento for everything on this card. Because this is giant, it's easier to stamp upside down. And then we'll stamp it on here. Everything is curvy, that's why it's called Curvy. So I'm able to kind of curve that down. And then because it's big, just make sure that you press everywhere. So those are super pretty. And then we're going to do, there's two smaller little flower things. We're going to do two of those, or one little one, and we're going to stamp it twice. And again, they kind of curve. So I'm able to kind of curve them into the thing just to make the most use of my little piece of scrap paper here. Because, you know, Shimmer White's my favorite, but it's also a little bit more pricey than Whisper White. And then we've got two little birds. There's more birds in that. There was either one or two more. I didn't use all the birds. Can we get them all on here? Because, you know, your scrap piece is going to be a little bit determined on exactly where you put your flap. Ah, look, one whole scrap piece. I do have extra, though, because obviously I had learning curve. Oh, and we need to stamp one more thing. So now we've got this. Let's just pop these out. I'm not going to do it right over the top of that. Otherwise, it's going to make a mess. All right out. I just don't want to do it right here over the... I guess I can do it on the scrap paper. Sorry. So now you want to take this, and just to make it easier to stamp, you want to lay it flat. And then there's several all year round kind of sentiments in it, I'm going to just go with the birthday one. I could have swapped, I guess, since I have this on one sample, but it says, wishing you the happiest of birthdays, Sib. I don't know if anybody else has helpers. It's what I get for letting her be up here when I'm not filming, because she thinks that, you know, right here is her spot. So just kind of put it wherever it fits best, and it might depend on where your fold is. You need to have enough of a fold that it's gonna be a fold, because if it gets too little, like if I had messed this up, there's not enough that I could have squished it up. And then just take a bone folder, and you want a really good crease right there to help keep that down. So that way because when there's not much, they tend to fling up. Because this is going to be a window sheet card, that's why we have that off. And there's one little thing I left in there. So now we're going to color these with blends, and I'm just going to show you a couple of the colors, and I have ones there from my Christmas card, too many greens. So I'm going to use just Jade on all of the leaves. So let's just do this one here. So just add some dark in the middles, and then same, it's just Jade on all of them. So on these tiny little leaves on this, I'm just putting some Jade there, and then just go back in with your light just Jade, and just kind of go around the edges. Leave a tiny bit of white because you don't want everything stark green. And I like to color each individual leaf on its own, because if you do just giant swatches of green, it's not going to give the shading that makes them look real. And this is kind of, it's not a super fancy card, but it's kind of a step up. So you don't want it to look like a 4-year-old colored it. And then just anywhere on these leaves, just kind of filling back in. And then on these super tiny little leaves up here, some of them I did in dark and some I did in light. And then all of the stems of the flowers on these, I just did in light, because these are mostly light. So that's how I did the green, and I'll do these and then I'll come back and fast forward. So then the little birds, I have Seaside Spray, and I took just a swash of the dark, a little bit more in one than the other, just so they don't look like they're the exact same bird. And then the light. And again, you don't want to color them exactly the same, because no two birds look exactly the same. And then there's no Sahara Sand blend, and that's the paper that we're using. So I just went with a combination of the dark crumb cake and ivory. And the dark crumb cake, again, I just went for just a little bit of highlight. Like that. You can see the birds don't take any time at all. The birds and the flowers are super fast. It's just all those leaves, and it doesn't take a long time. You just don't want to watch me color a bunch of green leaves. And then kind of blend the crumb cake in. It gives a nice kind of Victorian color to the birds, which is kind of the feel this card has. Then the flowers are super fun. I took the light Magenta Madness, which is really hot pink. It's pretty bright. So what I did was I took kind of a little, see, hot pink. And on each of the flowers, I just added a dab of hot pink somewhere. And I know if you've looked at the thumbnail, you're like, I didn't see hot pink on there. So I did that. I'm going to come back and do those. And then take your dark So Saffron. Wherever you put the pink, kind of blend it, and see it tones down that pink. Kind of mixes it into a shade of orange-ish, but wherever you touched the marker, it does keep that little pop of pink, which is kind of fun. But it takes away the super brightness of it. It just leaves that tiny ever so, again, it's kind of a Victorian look. It doesn't take long at all. So I did that with a dark, and I just kind of blended that right over the top of wherever the pink was. And then I went back in with the soft saffron, the light, and just filled in the rest of the petals. So it keeps it a nice soft yellow, but it does have that ever so tinge of pink. So I'm gonna finish these and we'll just skip ahead once I'm done. Okay, so we're finished coloring. It just took a couple minutes. I often put the coloring segments on Instagram, totally fast forwarded so you can see all of it. So now we just need to cut them out, and I am going to use the magnetic platform again just because it'll hold them in place nicely. I don't know if I can get them all on in 2 passes. So get that one lined up and we'll see if we can get them on. There's one bird. Their tails are super tiny, so it's nice to have the magnetic platform for this. I can get them, I think, on 2. Maybe not. We'll have to do 3, but that's okay. I am one of those people that I'd much rather do it in the number of passes that it takes to do it right than to try to cram them on there and then have them not be the way you like them. So here's these. And see, you don't want to now lay this magnetic platform back here, but you can see how nicely it cuts because there's no moving of the magnetic. But I went this way, now I need to go back this way. I was just trying to show you the things. So we're done with this one. We're gonna do this one twice. So I'll just do this and then I'll get the bird because this one's kind of close to the bird. And it's also important with this magnetic platform that you cut all over it. So I'll show you what I mean. So now we've done 2 passes in the middle of this because I haven't moved my paper much. So now for this one, I'm going to take it and I'm going to move it totally in a different spot. So we're just going to go all the way over here to the edge because you don't want to keep moving using the same spot. It's self-healing. It's all the same like height. You know, our old machine, we had part that was raised up in the middle. That's not like this. It's also important because it's going to cut perfect that you line it up well. Let's roll this through. This card doesn't take very long now that we've got all the cutting done. Because if you find that you always just put your stuff here, then it's going to bow. And the magnetic platform it's a magnetic plate. It's not a platform. The old one that we had was a platform, and platforms are not consumable. Plates just like these. This is a plate, that's a plate. Those are consumable. That means they will need to be replaced. So they're not going to last forever, but the better care you take of yours, the longer it will last. So now what we want to do is we're going to assemble this card and we're going to kind of do it in steps. So you're going to take this piece here, and I've cut it 5 1/4 by 4. And this is going to be our background piece. You can see the other side has the beautiful Christmas trees, which is probably my favorite piece in it, pattern. And this is going to be our background because it's a window card. So just put that there. And then we're going to take the window sheet, and this is cut 4 because it comes 12 by 12 and I didn't want to waste it, but then it's 5 1/2. I'm going to put my adhesive up here. And you do need to make sure that you put enough. So I'm going to put 3 strips. And then what you want to do is line this so it's perfectly on the card. So because it's a little short, I'm going to do the short here. Then just close this. That's why you wanted this to be done at the beginning so it's nice and dry. And now you've got a fun flap. So now we've got our flap. So we're going to put this piece on our window, and you can do it any direction you like. I kind of like it going against the flow of the other curvy. So you can kind of do it like this is going with the flow. So you can kind of turn it, which is what I did before, or you can go totally against the flow. It doesn't matter either way. So let's try this one this time because it's opposite of what I did. And then you need to remember that you're going to be able to see through, right? So you don't want globby glue. And I also think that when you color with the blends, it's really pretty. So it makes a pretty card when you open it. So I'm going to do mine a little bit curvy like that. And then we have all these fun pieces here to work with. So I'm going to, we'll just kind of decide how we want to do it. But you're going to cut these apart because we want lots of flowers and we only have 2 giant pieces and we don't want 2 giant pieces. So let's snip this apart here. I have no idea where I snipped them on my other one. And then any place where it kind of left a flat edge from snipping it, just trim those off. And then we can add, just again, you don't want it globby because you're going to be able to see from the back. Let's put it here. This is what happens when I cut it differently than my other one. And then you can leave a couple. I think I left one of them this size. I'm going to cut this one though because I don't like where this one's cut. So let's do this one here. And you can see you have to kind of cut close along the flowers because they have stems going right into them, but it works. So let's do this one here, which isn't where it is on my other one because this thing is bigger on this one than it is on my other one. So they're all going to be just a little bit different. So that leaves us this little piece. And again, you got to get off those severe edges and any place like a little bit of pink bled through right there. So we don't just want some random pink. And then up here, you can see where it's got a stem going into nowhere. So I'm just going to kind of trim that down into my leaves. And just make it look like that was what our piece looked like. And for this, let's go maybe there. And just lift up and stick it under. And so for this one, let's do, I know one of my other ones I just cut into 2 pieces. I'm not quite sure where I cut it because it doesn't matter. You're just getting flowers. You can really cut them all apart all over the place if you wanted. So let's do this one. And see, you can make this little stem right here look like it's going to attach to that stem right there. So by the magic of just adding that, we have that. And then these little pieces here, I want these tiny little leaves right here for the inside of my card, which leaves us these, which isn't quite the way my other card is because this has leaves on it. So someplace I've cut them a little different, but it works. Whoever gets this card is never going to know what your other cards look like. So don't let it bother you. Sometimes we get hung up thinking that it's not the way that another card that we're copying looks, but the people who get it will never see the other card. So on the back of this bird, I'm going to put some adhesive. And then I'm going to take this little piece here of little leaves that I have and just mount those behind there in the adhesive. And then a little bit more over the top of that. And because this is a fun window, now when you sign your card, you can write, just make sure you write either up here or behind this. There's plenty of, like, write how much you love them and how wonderful you think their year is up under this part, and then sign your name under this part. The other thing that you can do is you can take this die and just run it through some regular cardstock and then mount it. So when the card's closed, your cardstock is exactly underneath that. And then that way you can write exactly where it's going to be covered up. Just a little fun tip for you. And then let's take this little bird and put her up here. My other one's up there. I guess we'll do that again. And then for one last fun little touch, there's really not any place on here to add ribbon unless you want to tie it closed, which you could. But these are one of my favorite embellishments that we have. They're the champagne rhinestones. And the color just looks really pretty with this card. It's a nice feminine champagne color. Again, kind of Victorian feel to it. So add 3, because you know the number, odd number, so 3 or 5. So you can do 3 here. If you wanted to stick 2 more over there, you could. But now when your card's closed, you can see it. You know, you can open the inside, looks pretty. You don't want gloppy. You don't want to use, like if you use a blue tape runner, if your tape runner's ugly, then use glue. But if you're using seal, you can see you can't see any of my seal. So here's this one. Here's this one. I don't know if I can find my, I might have thrown them away. I didn't think I did though, because they were wrong. My wasted paper from this one, my learning curve. And it's funny because, you know, it's Curvy Celebrations. I don't see it. I was going to show you it. So this is this one. I'll do at least one more using this bundle, and then keep your eyes open for when I have the class announced. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I do think that the dies do take a little bit of a learning curve. And so by the time I actually do the class, I will have them all figured out, and I'll be happy to share everything I've learned about how to use them. But this is a super fun. I think the inside of the card's really actually pretty. It has a kind of, if you've been to Italy or Portugal or any place where they have old art, France, it looks like the insides of old buildings, how the paintings look there. So that's what I have for you today. Make sure you go to my website. There's a paper sale. If you're purchasing still this weekend, I'm giving away note cards. I have great free gifts this month. And if you need any help, I'm always happy to place orders for you if you find the website cumbersome. So just email me or give me a call. Have a great weekend. Bye.